Hey, it's your girl Nancy Red, and this is season 3 of Mompreneurs, where each week we celebrate beautiful Black entrepreneurs who are also amazing moms. Now, I'm chatting with my guests about how they're killing it simultaneously as business moguls and as moms, and we're listening to their inspiring journeys and incredible advice. Now, this week's guest is not just a fashionista, she is a trailblazer as the first Black woman to own a fashion trade show, and that's not just it. She's also killing it as the co-founder of Envision Fest, and she is also the chief impact officer of the iconic fashion brand Kith. Now, this Brooklyn born and raised is very important that we say that, okay? Because she wants you to know she is Brooklyn born and raised. Trinity Girl is here to tell us how she went from the fashionable shop girl to fashion superpower. Welcome, Sharifa.
Hi, thank you for having me. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Did I do you justice with your
Mhm.
introduction?
Yeah, you definitely did. You make me sound really important out here.
You are really important. For one,
Thank
because
you.
you did this all by your lonesome. You did not come into these streets with the hookup.
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, I had help and mentorship, and that's why I think paying it forward is so important. So, if you want to call that the hookup, then that's what it is.
No, that's the hookup that all of us are always searching for. So we're excited to talk to you about how do you become the type of incredible person to attract individuals that see the power in you so you can actually achieve your goals and your destiny. But before we get too far into the business side of things, I want to get a little personal.
Of course.
Who in your life puts the mom in mompreneur? Who's in your household?
Oh my God, who puts the mom in mompreneur? It would be my husband because and my son, Legend. Like I think that having him has definitely changed our lives and everybody says that, but I never always talk about it, but it took me 10 years to have him. So like for me that is the biggest and the most important thing in my life is my son Legend and he puts
Now, now, you and your husband, were you trying for 10 years or did you put it off for 10
no, no,
years?
no. So when we first got married, of course, you put it off for a year. You're like, oh, you want to enjoy the whole marriage thing. But I never thought it would take that long. And it just was a long process and a lot of IUIs and a lot of IVFs. And the Lord has blessed us with a son.
And
So
Legend is
I'm
so
very grateful.
cute.
Yeah,
How old
yeah,
is he right now?
it's two. And the time went by so fast. It's like everyone says it, but it really goes by quickly. He's like turning into another little man and just seeing him every day and how he reacts to things are so important. So
Oh,
I'm happy I
that's
can be here to see that.
that's so great. I'm so glad that Legend is here and he
Yeah.
was worth the wait. And while you were waiting to become a mother, you actually had a couple of business babies, right? You've been an entrepreneur for quite some time.
Yeah, I've been an entrepreneur for at least 20 years, probably more than that. I got my first start with trade shows, fashion trade shows. I started my first trade show when I was 23 years old. It was called Project. I didn't know what I was doing. I had the blessing and the help from my mentor turned family turned now Legends Goddaddy. Like he is just my everything, and I owe my whole entire career to him because he basically was that person that saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. We had our first trade show and it blew up, and it was really interesting because he was never the type of person to like be like do. It was more like go figure it out, and I had to figure out things on my own, and I learned from that, and it made me a stronger person and just a stronger woman in business. Because when you messed up, it was more like, okay, you messed up, let's figure out how to fix it, instead of like just being someone that's hard on you and just like demanding. It was just a really great experience for me. So
Oh, and it was unexpected. It's not like you were going into the
no.
workforce to become an entrepreneur. You've been working since you were a kid.
Yes, I've been working since I was a kid. I worked in a retail store before that called Atrium, and that's how I met my mentor. And
Okay, so people need to understand what atrium is. If you don't know, you don't know.
if
But
you don't
we're
know,
talking about 20 years ago when
it
when
was.
people actually shopped.
Oh no, it was the best retail store ever. I am still gonna say that today. Of course, now we have Kith, but it is the Kith before Kith, and it's just like where we're at today. But it was one of the best stores ever. I met such amazing people that I still have relationships with, and that's what's super important is to start building relationships from when you're young. You never know where people will land. You never know.
Because you started at Atrium when you were 16, right?
16. Yeah. Yeah.
And that was just a regular part-time job.
It was a regular job, and then it turned into a full-time job. Then it turned into me doing trade shows. Then it turned into me building my own trade show with my mentor, and then it turned to me being a kid. So I've been working with the same family and the same people since I'm 16 years old. Yeah.
And they have been working with you. It goes both ways.
Oh no,
When
definitely.
when you were a 16-year-old employee,
Yeah.
what do you think what do you think caught people's eye as someone who could become the business savvy individual that you are today?
I think it was my drive. I think it was my passion. I think it was my dedication. I always wanted to be on time. I always wanted to outsell. I also think it was my competitiveness. I was one of the top sellers at the store. I always wanted to present myself in a certain way. It wasn't consciously me saying this is what I want. I just was like that young person that had a lot of hunger. And my one goal was like I wanted to make sure my mom and dad had a really great home, or I wanted to buy new furniture. Those were my like goals, and that's what made me kind of work really hard at the time.
When you
Um,
talk about how you wanted to present yourself, give us a little paint a picture. Who was
well,
Sharifa at Atrium?
so okay, being and this is like always a conversation because being back in the day, being a dark skinned girl from Brooklyn was not it. Just so you understand, you used to get like, "Oh, you're cute for a dark skinned girl," or "You're like nice," and they never understood what it was. So you always wanted to make sure, as well, I always wanted to make sure that I presented myself in a more professional way. I didn't want to be deemed as like that ghetto girl. I didn't want to be deemed as like the girl that didn't know anything. So I always made sure I was up on every current event. I always made sure that I was in the know. I always made sure I knew who was who to the ability of knowing who they were and just understanding how to build relationships. And like I was always that person that wanted to have like real authentic relationships with people. And it was like knowing someone's birthday, knowing what if they had a daughter, knowing if they had a son, knowing just building like a real relationship and a repertoire with people to be able to help them more and more and more.
And the goal wasn't originally, I'm going to remember this person's
No.
birthday so that I can end up with my own trade show.
Wow, not at all.
The
It just
goal
makes
was just to keep the job moving so you could get that furniture.
exactly make sure my parents were okay. Yes. It was just to make sure we had everything that we needed. So that's what it was.
So, in all of this journey, when you become close with Sam, who's your mentor, who you met at
Yeah.
Atrium,
Mhm.
um, one of the things I think is really great about your story, which is hard for a lot of us, especially
Yeah.
those of us who, like, I grew up with a single mom, right?
Mhm.
So trust is an issue sometimes for me. Like, like I grew up
Yeah,
like you have to be a little wary of people, but that has never been an issue for you,
that
and
was
that really served you well as you have built this trajectory of businesses and working in business.
yeah, I honestly have created, and since I was younger, I was like that. And my friends sometimes are like, "You're too trustworthy." Like, I just believe the good in people. I always want to see the good before I see the bad. I don't want to have negative energy. And I feel like when you start building that, that's when you start to change as a person. And I never wanted to be that. So whenever I met someone, I always gave them the benefit of the doubt until they showed me something different. And Sam, the 20 some odd years that I've known him, has never showed me anything different. He has always been the stand up person that he is today.
And see, the thing is, what's really great about this, I think one of the things that anyone listening can take away is these relationships, they are forever.
Yes.
The types of relationships you make on the job in these environments, they may not be a partnership immediately, but down the road. Because
Yeah.
it's not like you were working at Atrium and he's looked at you on the floor and said, "We're starting a business today." This
Yeah.
was a very roundabout way. You went from shop girl, you had to move companies
Yeah.
before you all ended up even working together, right?
Yeah, of course, of course. Like he was the buyer for the store, then he became the owner for the store, and then he became the owner of the trade shows, and he picked me to help him with that trade show. And in the beginning, it was just me and him doing everything, moving furniture, bringing furniture, hiring people, just learning the ins and out. And that I think that's what made me the person I am today is because I had to do everything. So today, I know how to do production. I know how to do sales. I know how to speak to people. And I think that that's a little bit of what people are missing today. They only specify on one job, whereas I like to know the whole thing just so I know how to handle myself in any situation.
And it gives you a little bit of cushion because you aren't left wondering if the person's doing their job. You know what the
I
job is. You
know
can do the job.
exactly, exactly.
A lot of risk was involved because when when you went from employee to entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
you had to leave behind some things. You actually you had moved from Atrium.
Mm-hmm.
You were at Louis Vuitton, which is
Mm-hmm.
like that is the dream. You were working for Louis Vuitton. How fly were you? How
That
much
was
did
like,
everyone respect you?
I mean, they loved me because we could get a ton of bags, but
You were getting the bag and the bags.
in the bag and the bag. It was really good, and it was a really great experience because it also taught me about corporate structure. It taught me more about like different individuals because the Atrium client at that time wasn't the Louis Vuitton client. So you kind of learned those two different avenues, and I was able to build something substantial over there as well and put on my resume. So it was really beautiful.
But Sam snatched you away. And
And
how hard was it? The thing is, he was giving you a dream.
yeah,
Louis Vuitton was the dream. That was a great job.
you know
But
what's so
Sam was
funny?
offering something else.
No, but it was really interesting. Sam just said, come back. He didn't say we're going to start a business together. He was just like, come back. I want you to come back. And something in him and something in me just believed that that was the right decision. I didn't come back right away and started a trade show. I came back and was like a store manager
Oh,
and then
wow.
decided to start the trade show. So it wasn't like, oh, he said, come back. You're going to be doing this. He just like, come back. This, I want you to come back. I think it'll be really great for you. And something in me believed that. And yeah, people thought I was crazy to leave Louis Vuitton. They were building me a really nice office and everything. And I was just like, no, I got to go back. I think it'll be better, you know? And it was a really great decision for myself.
So when you make this decision and you're looking at the situation, what is your advice to other people who will find themselves in it, you know, because if you're looking at what on a resume, you were
Yeah.
at Atrium, go to Louis Vuitton, you're building this whole thing, and then they're just like, come back here. It doesn't look like a step down, but it does look a little confusing. What's your advice to people about trusting their gut and figuring out what is the best move for them,
I think,
despite it not necessarily being the status quo?
yeah, of course. I would say trust your gut, but also look at your long term goal, right? How I did it was I looked at myself. I saw where I could be at Louis Vuitton, which would have been amazing, but I could have also been wasting a ton of money on bags and shoes and things that I really didn't want. Whereas I felt like I didn't know my destiny at Atrium, but I felt good about it. And it felt like going back home. And it felt really good. I think you have to really want to feel something in order to make the decision. I think you automatically know when something's not right. And some people like play with their mind and they're like, oh, it may get better, or it made this, it made that. Trust your instinct first. That is the number one rule. And I feel like you will make the right decision.
You definitely made the right decision because you became
Yeah.
the first Black woman to own a fashion trade show. Now, a
Yeah.
lot of us listening, we don't even know what a fashion trade show is. Break it down for us. What does this mean? You're a store manager at Atrium.
Yeah.
Sam's like, let's start some trade shows.
Yeah.
Did you know what a trade show was at this
I
point?
had no clue.
So he's like, let's start a business.
I was like, okay, yeah, free as day. A fashion trade show is basically business to business. So I'm gonna put it in like really easy terms, right? A brand like Levi's, they need to show all these different stores, the Macy's, the Bloomingdale's, the Saks, the Nordstroms, what they are selling for the next season. We had a show like that. So I will travel the world and also had so much fun looking for new brands, discovering new brands, bringing new brands to the US so that these stores can like want them. And that was what we started. We started an amazing trade show. It was called Project, and we started with 67 brands. And by the time the company sold, it was over 1,000 brands.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And you got to have all this experience traveling the world, being
I
being a
mean,
buyer, which is something that it's a whole different vibe. You're not someone selling stuff, you're acquiring.
yeah. So I was actually just going and finding the brands and bringing them to the States to say, you should sell to these stores. Yeah. And we built a really great experience. So not only was I doing that on one side, the production side, you're building an experience for people to come in and feel comfortable in a setting. If you've ever been to a trade show, it's very run and go, very run and go. One thing that was super important to Sam was that we made it very sexy. We made it fun. We made it like full of energy where people would want to stay for 3 days and have a really great time. And we made something very successful.
And from there, you know, it was doing great, went from 60 brands to over 1,000 brands, and then COVID.
No,
COVID changed the game.
no, that wasn't even, that was our first trade show. We ended up selling it to a bigger conglomerate.
Oh wow. So how many trade shows have you founded? Okay,
So,
two.
two.
So
So
the
the
first
first
one was
one,
a huge success. You
yeah,
you sell that one and you're just like, yay.
yeah, and then we started our other trade show, and it's called Liberty. And Liberty was about just bringing the more cool brands, making it more intimate. Because as you know, when you sell a company, it becomes very mass and you have to do a lot of big things. Where we loved being entrepreneurs and we loved bringing in these cool new brands and introducing them to the States. So we started another show called Liberty. And then COVID started. we did Liberty for a couple years, and then the COVID started.
And within this, you continue to pivot, you assess, you
Yeah.
discuss, and talk to us about how we went from trade shows to Kith.
So in between Liberty and Project, Sam had founded Kith with Ronnie, and we had always talked about working together, myself and Ronnie, but I just never had the time. And during COVID, when there was no events happening, it was probably the perfect time that we can kind of step up and do something together. And Sam and Ronnie spoke with me, and we were like, let's do it now because this is the time. Like, we had been talking about it prior years prior, and it just wasn't working out. So it was just the right time. And I'm a firm believer about timing because it was the right timing with Project. It was the right timing, unfortunately, with Liberty and COVID. And it was just the right time for me to go over to Kith.
And here's what I think is interesting. If we're looking at this timeline, okay,
Yeah.
because being an entrepreneur is stressful,
Oh, God.
right? Like here we are at Kith, and how
Hmm.
long have you been at Kith?
I've been at Kith for 5 years now.
For 5 years.
Yeah.
And your sweet son is now here. Do you see a correlation to this transition from these successful businesses to this stability with Kith? You kind of have your situation going and being able to become a mother?
Yeah, I definitely believe in timing. I think that people don't realize it, and we want things when we want it. And I think you get it when you're supposed to get it. And everything that has happened in my life, good or bad, has happened for the reason that it needed to happen. And that's what I truly believe in.
Absolutely. Because right now you've got a great thing going with your wonderful husband,
Yeah,
your wonderful son. You're doing such incredible things as the Chief Impact
yeah,
Officer at Kith. What else is happening in your life? Because that's not just it. Because one of the things that you're very passionate about is mentorship. Because
yes,
you and I are the same. Like, I'm only here because people have been really nice to me. They have been so supportive and they've taken chances, they've shared information. And you, in particular, have said that most of the people in your life who have been mentors to you have been men,
yeah,
which is not the expected
yeah,
thing, but that's because of the industry that you're in, ironically.
yeah, of course. It's really interesting. I never looked at it until recently, to be honest with you, because I've always just accepted that that was my journey and that was my life. And it's been I've learned how to work as men do. So my time in my life, it doesn't stop. So like, my dad is in the Air Force, and I grew up as a Air Force baby. So like, it's the 4 o'clock wake up, it's the 5 o'clock leave the house. It's like my whole routine, and I have to be in routine, or otherwise I feel a little bit off. So everything I've learned is honestly from men, which is it's a blessing and a curse at the same time. You always want that one woman. I recently found one woman that I really respect and love, and look at her as that pillar of my mentorship as well.
Oh, but see, you're now giving back. You're becoming the mentor.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. I love it, and I know that's why Sam and Ronnie knew that this would be perfect for me, because I've been doing it before mentorship and those things were as big as it is today. Like, I've always wanted to mentor people. Being from Brooklyn, I knew what I could have been if I didn't have the guidance. So I wanted to make sure that I was able to implement that in other young people's lives.
In fact, it forces you to calm down sometimes. That 5 o'clock wake up, not always possible when you have a kid who is up at 2 o'clock in the morning being sick. Motherhood, I'm sure, has shaped your
As
hustle.
Oh, definitely. And it's also calmed me down a lot, right? Like, I was trying to do everything. I'm always saying yes to things. Motherhood has made it acceptable for me to, like, not go to certain things. And it's okay. And know that I'm not missing anything, and know that what's important is important.
So, what is important to you right now? You are doing incredible things with Kith. You just came out here to Los Angeles, and you all did some incredible work about the fires. You're making huge impact. Black History Month is here. You guys
That's right.
have some amazing things going on there.
Yeah.
So, Kith is important to you.
Yes.
Mentorship is important to you, and you actually co-founded another organization
Yes.
that is your give back to the
Yeah.
community.
Yeah, so we founded myself and my business partner founded Envision probably about 5 years ago. We were just on the scene. We wanted to make sure that we were giving back to young females or identifying females. It's important just because we were two girls of color and we wanted to make sure that they saw in us what other people saw. And that they also were able to kind of see themselves in us. I think so many times we live in these different cities and young people only see what's like on social and they don't see the greatness of just regular people that go to work every day, and there's so many of us out there that can inspire young people, and that's what we wanted to showcase. So that's what Envision was birthed off of, and it was also giving access and information and just like beautifulness to young people that they can see themselves in other people.
Let's talk about that information
Yeah.
because anyone listening to this is listening because they really want information.
Yeah.
I started this podcast because information is the only way we can grow and succeed. I come from a long lineage of entrepreneurs, so entrepreneurship is pretty easy for me. But then there's other aspects, like just literally living in capitalistic America. I was not taught how to
Oh,
maneuver appropriately in a lot of these ways, and we're learning as we're going. And that's part of your story too, right?
yeah,
Like we are brilliant, we are powerful, we can do anything with the right information that is
exactly.
often lacking.
And the right access. That's what people don't understand. I think like so many times you are looking at young people and thinking, oh, they're supposed to know. Many a times we are first generation, number one, and we are not learning from our parents because our parents don't know. Right. So something that we offer at Envision is a financial education. That is something that will take you so far in life. Just the outdoors, just taking kids on hike. Inner city kids don't go on hikes. They're like walking around the block. Um, just learning about plays, learning about mentorship, building a relationship with another individual and understanding how their career has started. Not just hearing one person's career story, hearing multiple people's career story, because that one of those may identify with you at some point. It's just so many little intricacies that you want to provide for young people that they are not currently getting. And and that's in school and that's in the after school programs. So we are just pushing that narrative and just trying to change what this looks like for kids.
Because once you get the information, it's so much easier. Like we talk all the time about how understanding money is
Yes.
something that our community has purposely been kept from understanding and knowing, right? So when we look at this, one of the gifts that your mentor gave you is the awareness of how to become financially free. And it's not just grind to the nose.
No.
Much of this is just stuff that you make a couple decisions and it changes the trajectory of your life.
Yeah, yeah. I can remember a conversation I'm having with Sam, and it's like, I wanted to get an apartment. And I had an apartment. He's like, why do you want the next apartment? I was like, because I want to make it big. Because that's what we're taught, right? We want grandiose things. And he's like, no, you can get it, but you're going to rent it out. Like that's what's important. It's about having longevity within the finance world and knowing, understanding that real estate is a big thing for you. And I learned that because I was just trying to get another apartment to kind of combine the apartment and make it bigger. So it's just like little tidbits of those. And I think that having a mentor, I know that having a mentor, I'm not even going to say I think, having a mentor, especially a long term mentor, is a continuous learning program. You're always learning from them. You're never not learning. And I know building a relationship with them and having those deep rooted conversations that you need to have is super important for your longevity in life.
And the intimacy and the allowing yourself to accept the help and information,
Yeah.
like in the Black community, home ownership is a big thing, and
Yes.
it's something that in many communities is not encouraged, right? Like with my father, he encouraged home ownership in our community, and he would help people understand, okay, you pay off this jewelry bill and then you just put the down payment on it. Seems like a lot now, but it'll grow as your home grows. And just explaining
Hmm.
these nuts and bolts
Yeah.
that changes the trajectory of your life with one very simple decision. And that kind of happened to you too, right? Like you did not even take into consideration, even though being an entrepreneur has changed your life,
Yeah.
being a real estate owner has
Yeah.
changed your life even more.
It has, and it has taught me patience and kindness, very much so as well.
What is your advice to people who are trying to get the information that you're providing as a mentor with your organization? Where can they go to get this information if
Oh
they
my
aren't
God.
fortunate enough to be?
They can definitely go on our Envision Festival page or our Envision Foundation.org page. That's where all the information lives. And they can always DM me on Instagram. Sharifa says,
Now, okay, so Sharifa says that you can go to do these things. Does Sharifa also say that you should become a fashion entrepreneur? Because do you think that, because again, a lot of the things that you've done
mhm.
do recommend people start trying to do them now if they're interested? Like, do you recommend people who want to have their own business, who want to do something in fashion? Is this still a great place to grow?
1000%. I love fashion. It's going to always be at the core of who I am. What I will say is make sure that you are prepared and you're educated. And that's why I think I would say the first thing you do if you want to be in fashion is get a mentor, because you need to be able to understand what you're about to walk into. Starting a fashion brand is not easy and find on you nor your finances. And I think a lot of times people think that they're going to just start something, make money, and build from that. And a lot of people are sadly mistaken. So I would say make sure you get mentorship, make sure you do the information, make sure you take a business class, make sure you talk to people, talk to as many people as possible, and don't ever be afraid to reach out to people. I think so many times we get in front of ourselves and be like, oh, they're just going to say no or they're not going to respond. Try try I'm a big firm believer of trying. Put yourself out there, make yourself vulnerable sometimes for people, and they will help you.
And also, it's not all wins, right?
No,
Yes,
not
you
at
do
all.
have these mentors. Not everybody wants to fool with you.
Oh my God. Not at all, at all. Trust me, I've fallen many times, but I always get back up and I do the right thing. You have to be able to have some thick skin and know that everyone's not going to say yes. And out of the 10 no's, you might get one yes.
I remember I was trying to get a mentor for something, and I
Mhm.
remember I took the person out to lunch, and I just introduced
Yeah.
myself and everything, and then we had this great tete-a-tete, and afterwards, I shot an email and said, would love it if you could take me under your wing, and literally, I've never been so hurt. I received a one word back message, no, and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they didn't stop me.
Yeah.
I kept waiting and figuring out and trying and learning how to become more ingratiated in
Mhm.
other people's, because this a mentorship, a relationship is not just to take. You're providing a lot
Yeah.
of value. And that's one of the things that I learned along the way. It's not just like, will you be my mentor? What you bringing to the table, mentee?
Exactly. And you have to be prepared. I would say that no didn't just mean no. It could have been also, I always look at things with the positive intent. It could have been, hey, I really just don't have the time right now. And that's okay as well. I think we always think negative when we hear no. I don't hear a negative. I hear, I really don't have the time right now. Or I hear, you need to ask a different way with your list of what you think this is going to look like. Because many a times people hit you up and they're like, hey, can you be my mentee, my mentor? And you're like, okay, okay, what do you want? Then you have to then say, what do you want? If you're going to ask for mentorship, I think it's really important for you to list the things like, this is how I'm looking like it can look. And it's okay to have that information, because then it gives the person that's receiving the text, email, DM, whatever, a clear point of view on what you're asking for, and then they can make a decision.
I love that.
Yeah.
And also, the more you give, I mean, again, that anecdote was 25 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And like you're growing, you're learning every time. Now we know enough to anticipate the questions and to know
Yeah.
how to present. And it's
Yeah.
okay not to know and to fail at first. You have had a tremendous amount of success. You are beloved.
Thank you.
You are accomplishing incredible things. What do you hope your legacy will be?
That I was here and I tried to help as many people in this world on this planet as possible. That's my legacy.
I love that. And moving forward, one of the things that I love, it's like my favorite segment, is called Mompreneurs Manifestation. And I
Okay.
always ask our guests what you're trying to make happen, how we can help bring it into the universe as part of that. Like, as part of what you're trying to do, as part of how you're trying to help as many people as possible. What are you hoping comes next for you? Like, what are you working on that you hope to come back for a follow up Mompreneurs and share details on?
Of course, I'm working on Envision all the time. But one thing that's really near and dear to my heart, not only is Envision, but that more companies start to realize that they need to put their money where their mouth is. I think that as a company over here at Kith, we are doing the work. And I want to see more people doing the work, not just when it's time to do the work, all the time. I don't like that, we were all so big on doing the work before and now everybody's pulling back. I feel like we need to continuously do the work. There's a lot of people out there that are needing help, even more today than ever. And I know that people think that help looks like if I don't have anything big, I can't do anything. Help is helping one person, help is helping two people. What we did for LA was more substantial when you help families, when you help than anything else. So I would always say just keep trying to help one, two people. If we all thought like that, we would make this world a different place.
And for people who have been under a rock,
Yeah.
talk to us about Kith. It's absolutely incredible. The clothes are beautiful.
Yeah.
The purpose behind it, the fact that they invest so much in people like you
Oh
in the
yeah.
community is
Yes.
incredible. This is the antithesis of fast fashion.
Yeah. We are a luxury fashion company and we are global and we are doing the work out there, not only in the fashion space and making things look great, but on the community side.
And you've had your own trade shows, you're working for Kith. Do you want your own fashion line one day? You've seen thousands of brands come, go, fizzle, thrive. Does
Mhm.
this inspire you to have your own fashion brand?
No, it just inspires me to do more work in the community. I think that there's enough fashion brands out there and there are brilliant brands doing amazing things. I want to do more work within the communities that I serve. And I think that that's how other brands should think. There's so many brands out here. We can be really dynamic if we were to do for the communities like we do for the fashion brands.
Incredible. Thank you so much for being here with us. You're an incredible mompreneur. You're doing so much. Okay, they can find you at Sharifa Says, but
Yes.
remind us again, where can they find your organization that you co-founded with Laura? Where
Yep.
can they find Kith, where you're a chief impact officer?
Oh,
Where are you all over the webs?
we are all over the place. So you can find me on sharifasays.com. You can find Kith on kithnyc.com. You can find Connect, which is the nonprofit for Kith, on connectfoundation.org. Or you can look me up on envisionfoundation.org as well.
I love it. And this is kind of a family affair too. Your husband,
Yes.
he's quite fancy too, right?
Oh, yeah, he's a chef. And I eat a lot. So that's why I'm up at 5 o'clock to go to the gym. But no, he's amazing and a really great support system. And I would not be able to do this, all the things that I do, without him.
How did you two meet?
Oh my God, we met through our really great friends, actually. It
And when
was,
he found out you were in fashion and traveling on around
he
and
didn't
just being an
care.
entrepreneur,
He didn't care. He just thought I was cute. He was impressed. He was impressed, but I think my personality impressed him even more. So,
I love it. And so you've got all sides. You've got the husband, the baby, the business. You're working it all, and we are so glad that you could join us today. Everyone, you heard her, you know where to find her and the incredible work she does. Thank you so much for watching and listening to Mompreneurs. As a reminder, a brand new episode goes live each Monday on Urban One Podcast Network, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Visit urban1podcast.com to learn more. That's urban1podcast.com. Mompreneurs is brought to you by the Urban One Podcast Network and MadameNoire. Created, produced, and hosted by me, Nancy Red. Executive produced by Allison McGovna and Tanya Hoffler-Moore. Produced and edited by Jiminique Miller.